no concern or care for the welfare of anyone other than himself.
So you mean on a basic human psychology perspective?
I think he doesn't even care about his children. I think he's just. I think it's him. I think he's gone into a rabbit hole. He might not always have been this way. I did watch him a long time in New York City when I was growing up in New York, and I think he's been in this path. And I think it's an extreme. It's a clinical kind of narcissism.
So do you, when you analyze presidents and you've written about presidents, you don't just look at policies and so on. You look at the human being.
Of course, you have to. Leadership is about human being. Policy matters. It's one part of the equation, but it's not the only part.
What about Joe Biden? What do you like and what do you dislike about him?
So what I like about Joe Biden is, in contrast to Trump, I think Joe Biden really, right now in his career, sees his role as the shepherd of democracy. He really believes that it's his role as president to make our democracy more stable and more vibrant. I think he really believes. I think that's why he's doing what he's doing right now.
And he comes from that system, the political system, that basically the process of democracy. He's worked there for many decades.
It's all he's done.
Yeah, that's all he knows. He wants that to propagate for better or for worse.
Right. And he's not an extreme Democratic partisan at all. He's actually a pretty middle of the road guy on most issues. Some people don't like him for that, but I think he is about democracy. What do I dislike about Biden? I think he does not have the capacity right now to provide the language and the public discussion of where our country should go. He doesn't have a language to inspire and build enthusiasm for the future.
That would probably be one of my, because I'm a sucker for great speeches. And so for me, that's definitely a thing that stands out for several reasons. One, in a time, because we've been facing so many challenges like the pandemic, it just seems to me, it seems like an easy, layup. There's so many troubles we're going through that just require a great unifying president with a great, just if I were to speak candidly about kind of the speaking ability of Obama, for example, Obama would just destroy this right now, both on the war in Ukraine, on the pandemic, all of it. There's a hunger for unification, I believe. Maybe people disagree with that because I think people have become cynical in that the divisions that we're experiencing are kind of already really baked in. They've really planted their feet. But I don't think so. I think there's a huge hunger, maybe a little bit of a quiet hunger for a unifier, for a great unifier.
I agree. And I think what a great speech does is it's like a great piece of music or poetry. It helps you see something in yourself and feel something you didn't feel before. It doesn't overcome all different. I don't think that speeches are unifying, but I think what they are is they're mobilizing. And you can mobilize people to the same mission with different points of view.
Do you think Trump derangement syndrome is a medical condition? Also, is there such a thing as Biden derangement syndrome? What I mean by that, it's a funny kind of question, but why are people so deeply outraged, seemingly beyond reason, at their hatred or support of Donald Trump, but hatred in particular? I've seen a lot of friends and people I respect lose their mind completely.
Yeah. So I'm not sure it's a medical condition or not because I'm not a medical doctor. So my kids say I'm the wrong kind of doctor. Right now.
I'm a doctor, so let me take it over from here. No, the fact that you get the doctor sign after getting a PhD is a ridiculous hilarity to me. Hilarious, ridiculous.
So as the wrong kind of doctor, I'll say I'm not going to comment on whether it's a medical condition, but I do think you're onto something. I think there is a way in which these men become touchstones of anger. And there's all kinds of anger and anxiety that people have. And I've seen this in other historical periods. You center it on one person. Mm-hmm. In a way, that's John Wilkes Booth and Lincoln. He actually didn't have a personal beef with Lincoln. It was that all the things he feared were manifest in that. And I think that's an old story, and then it's made worse by social media and the way we're bombarded. And it's like it becomes a drug. I mean, there are people I know who hate Trump or Biden so much and just watch them.
Mhm.
It's not that they don't watch them; it's that they do watch them, right? And it's just sort of, and it triggers you, and you get hateful, and then you feel like you've done something by shouting out your hate or typing in.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if it's a derangement syndrome. I think it's a way in which our energy gets channeled and expressed in totally useless ways.
Yeah. That's an interesting psychology, which reminds me, I need to explore that because I've noticed that, believe it or not, it's easy for me to believe, but there's people watching this right now who really hate me. And they're watching because they hate me. They hate the way I look, the way I speak, the mumbling, all of that, and they're still watching. And I'd like to say that as I nervously try to explain myself, I'd like to say that that's not a productive way. I get it. I understand. There's a kind of because I what is it? It's this. Is it the same psychological effect when you see a car crash and you keep staring?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
some kind
yeah.
of thing that pulls you in.
Totally.
But I feel like it's that feeling. What it's just probably slightly different, but you kind of want to. You want to maybe feel something, and there's an anger in you already, frustrations from day to day life. Life is hard, and you just want to channel that anger towards something. But the internet really makes that easy for some reason.
And it makes sense of your life. That's the problem. It for people whose lives are chaos, hating you and blaming you gives order to their lives.
Yeah. If it makes you happy, please continue.
Well, I'm curious. Does it? It seems to bother you though, doesn't it?
Yeah, hate of any kind, not towards me, just the people. Because I think about them, and I tend to think that most people are amazing human beings and that have a capacity to do great things in this world. And so I just think that's not a productive way of being. Like psychologically, for anything whatsoever, everybody has quirks that you can hate, but you just focus on the really positive stuff and you celebrate that stuff, and that feels good. That has a momentum to it. I guess the hate has a momentum to it too, and that's what I'm trying to highlight. If you follow the momentum of hate, that's going to maybe feel good in the short term, but it's not. It's going to fuck you over more and more in your life, and that's you have to be cognizant of that as you interact with the
I
internet.
agree with everything you said, but I think people who do things that are influential and serious, there always are some people who hate them.
I suppose that, but I want to show the difference between philosophical disagreement that borders on hate and like what's called like hate watching, where you just, which is what I would say TDS is, which is you're almost enjoying how much you hate this person. You're just sitting in there hate and you forgot, you lose all reason, you lose everything, your capacity to think as an individual, to empathize with others, you lose all of that. You're in this muck of hate and it somehow it helps you make sense of this particular difficult moment in your life. But otherwise, it just seems like a shitty way to live. But disagreement, definitely. I like disagreement.
But I guess what I'm saying is, and I think this is your message too, right? Is that don't let the fact that people don't like you or even that some people hate you stop you from doing the right thing. Think about how you can perhaps trigger them less, but don't stop what you're doing. I see too many, and this is why I bring this up, too many of my students, too many young, very talented people who are afraid to take risks because they're afraid that someone will hate them.
Yeah.
And that can't get in your way.
The reality is, most people, or there will always be at least one person that will have your back and that will support you, and just focus on them. As long as you're doing the right thing, focus on them for the strength. But in general, I'm exaggerating here, but because most of the time, 99% of people are supportive on the internet. It's just that something about the human psychology really stands out to you when somebody criticizes.
Well, it's easy on the internet. This is historically different from where we were before as a society. It's very easy now to say hurtful things to people and not have to even deal with them looking at you in the face. One of the things that encourages politeness is the fact that we're looking at one another. And we are naturally programmed not to want the other person to react to us in certain ways. But when we don't see their face, it's very easy to say all kinds of things.
Let me actually comment on that point. There's a lot of people on the internet that say that I don't sort of push back on points or criticize people or ask the hard questions enough. First of all, oftentimes I disagree with that assessment, but also I don't think you guys realize how hard that is to do when you're sitting with a person. I don't care about access. I don't care about them being famous. Just on a basic human level, it's really hard to ask a hard question. from a place of empathy.
Except when I'm sitting here, you seem to be able to ask me hard.
No, this is a super fun. I mean, when this brilliant